Over the past several days, rhetoric from Tehran has intensified. Statements attributed to Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei warned that American warships entering the region could be sent to the bottom of the sea. Senior commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps repeated variations of that message, asserting that U.S. aircraft carriers are vulnerable, even fragile, in confined waters. At the same time, open-source intelligence indicates increased American air activity across key bases in Europe and the Middle East. Reports of F-22 deployments from RAF Lakenheath have circulated widely. Observers have noted aircraft rotations near Chania International Airport and at other regional installations. All of this unfolds just days before renewed nuclear discussions in Geneva, negotiations shaped by the legacy of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. So tonight, we step back from the noise. We move past viral clips and heated commentary. When a state threatens to sink an aircraft carrier, the statement is not random, it is calibrated. Deterrence language serves multiple audiences simultaneously. For domestic listeners inside Iran, strong rhetoric reinforces sovereignty and resilience. Years of sanctions, economic pressure, and regional competition have created internal strain. Assertive language from leadership projects control and strength. For regional rivals, the message signals that escalation will not go unanswered. For Washington and its allies, the statement becomes leverage, particularly ahead of diplomatic talks. Threats in geopolitics often function as positioning before negotiation. By amplifying risk publicly, a state increases perceived cost for its adversary. But words alone do not determine outcomes. Capabilities do. The Strait of Hormuz is narrow, at its tightest point, roughly 21 nautical miles wide. Shipping lanes are even narrower. Approximately 1/5 of globally traded oil passes through this corridor. It is a choke point, and choke points magnify asymmetric power. Iran does not need a blue water navy comparable to the United States. It needs tools designed specifically for confined waters, mines, missiles, fast attack craft, and surveillance systems capable of tracking maritime movement. Geography is Iran's greatest force multiplier, but geography cuts both ways. Narrow waters also limit maneuver space for offensive platforms. Any force attempting to close the strait must operate under persistent surveillance, from satellites, drones, submarines, and aircraft. The Gulf is crowded. It is monitored. It is layered. There is no secrecy here, only speed and timing. The central claim repeated in recent rhetoric is direct. Iran can sink a U.S. aircraft carrier. Let us examine this analytically. A modern American supercarrier displaces approximately 100,000 tons. It operates as part of a carrier strike group, not alone. That group includes Aegis-equipped destroyers, cruisers, submarines, and layered air support. Defensive architecture includes long-range missile interceptors, medium-range interceptors, close-in weapon systems, electronic warfare suites, airborne early warning platforms, combat air patrol fighters. To sink such a vessel outright would require coordinated, overwhelming success across multiple domains simultaneously. That is an extraordinarily difficult undertaking. Could a carrier be damaged? In theory, yes, under extreme saturation conditions. Could it be sunk in minutes by a single missile? Highly unlikely. Modern carriers are compartmentalized, armored in critical areas, and built with redundancy. The myth of instant catastrophic destruction oversimplifies naval engineering reality. But here is the nuance. Iran does not necessarily need to sink a carrier to achieve strategic impact. It needs to make deployment costly and politically risky. That is a different objective. Iran's maritime doctrine is built around asymmetry. Rather than matching U.S. tonnage, Tehran invests in missile saturation, swarm tactics, naval mines, proxy pressure across the region. Missile saturation, Iran fields, anti-ship ballistic missiles, and cruise missiles with varying ranges. Ballistic variants theoretically descend at high velocity toward maritime targets. Cruise missiles fly lower and are harder to detect at range. The challenge lies in targeting. A moving carrier requires real-time tracking. Satellites, drones, maritime patrol aircraft, and over-the-horizon radar would all need to function seamlessly under electronic warfare conditions. The United States invests heavily in disrupting those kill chains. Thus, missile effectiveness is not merely about range, it is about sensor survival. Swarm warfare. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates numerous fast attack craft, small, agile boats capable of launching rockets or short-range missiles. Swarm doctrine aims to overwhelm defensive systems by sheer volume, but swarms must approach within range. Carrier strike groups extend defensive perimeters outward using aircraft and surveillance. Any concentrated swarm leaving Iranian ports would likely be tracked well before engagement range. Still, in confined waters, saturation remains a theoretical threat, particularly if combined with drones. Naval mines. Perhaps Iran's most credible leverage tool. Mining operations in narrow shipping lanes could disrupt commercial traffic quickly. Even the suspicion of mines raises insurance rates and slows transit. Mine-clearing operations are slow and methodical. Here, Iran's strategy shifts from sinking warships to pressuring global markets. And that distinction matters. U.S. activity reflects deterrence rather than mobilization for invasion. Air deployments from bases, including RAF Lakenheath, enhance flexibility. Forward-based tankers expand reach. Rotations through Mediterranean and Gulf facilities reinforce presence. The United States does not require carriers inside the Persian Gulf to project power. Long-range strike platforms from the Arabian Sea, combined with submarines and stealth aircraft, allow standoff options. Modern U.S. doctrine emphasizes multi-domain integration: cyber, space, electronic warfare, air superiority, precision strike. The objective is dominance without escalation. Deployment is signal, not inevitability. Crises rarely jump directly to full war, they climb. Stage 1, rhetoric. Stage 2, military signaling. Stage 3, limited skirmish. Stage 4, regional escalation. Stage 5, sustained conflict. We remain in Stage 2. The greatest danger lies in miscalculation. A drone misidentified, a radar lock misinterpreted, a missile test mistaken for attack preparation. In crowded waters, seconds matter. History shows that unintended escalation often begins with tactical error rather than strategic intent. Approximately 20% of global oil supply transits the Strait of Hormuz. If traffic halts, markets react instantly. Energy importing nations, China, India, much of Europe, would face immediate price spikes. Insurance premiums on shipping would surge. Stock markets would respond before missiles ever land. Thus, even limited disruption carries global consequences. Iran understands this. So does Washington, which is why full closure of the strait remains unlikely, but partial disruption remains plausible. The 2015 Nuclear Framework, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, temporarily restructured Iran's enrichment program before unraveling. Now, Geneva hosts renewed talks. Rhetoric before negotiation is common. States increase perceived leverage ahead of bargaining. Iran seeks sanctions relief and economic normalization. The United States seeks enrichment constraints and regional de-escalation. Neither side benefits from full-scale war. Military escalation would derail negotiations instantly. Thus, threats may function more as positioning than preparation. Modern crises unfold online as much as at sea. Dramatic animations, viral commentary, and assertive speeches shape perception. Public psychology influences political space for leaders. Iran projects defiance. The United States projects overwhelming capability. The truth lies somewhere in between, in classified briefings, contingency plans, and diplomatic cables. Perception can deter, but it can also corner. If hostilities were to begin, hypothetically, they would likely follow a sequence. Precision strikes against missile launch sites. Attempts to degrade surveillance and targeting networks. Electronic warfare to blind sensors. Iranian retaliation via missiles or proxies. rapid international diplomatic pressure to contain escalation. Full invasion scenarios remain improbable. Limited exchanges remain possible. The key variable is duration. Short exchanges can be managed. Prolonged cycles risk expansion. Israel monitors developments closely. Gulf states weigh risk carefully. European governments emphasize diplomacy. China and India prioritize uninterrupted energy flow. This is not a bilateral equation. It is a global matrix. No carriers have been struck. No mines have been confirmed deployed. No missiles have been launched in combat. What exists is tension, signaling, preparation. The balance between deterrence and escalation remains intact. Sinking a U.S. carrier would be extraordinarily difficult. Damaging one would require overwhelming coordination. Disrupting shipping is far more plausible, and diplomacy remains active. History suggests most such crises resolve below open war. But history also warns that narrow waterways and loud rhetoric can compress decision timelines. Tonight, the carriers remain afloat. The strait remains open. The negotiations remain possible. And the world watches, carefully, as strategy unfolds across one of the most consequential stretches of water on Earth.